Okay, so let's get into our lecture for this evening by reciting Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato 3 times. Put your hands up at Anjali as a sign of respect to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to the Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha, which lead from death to the deathless. Homage to the Sangha, the community of the Buddha's disciples who inspire and guide. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Can everyone see the screen all right?
It's fine, Bob.
Yes.
Was it? Yes? Okay, very good.
Yes.
Can you see me? Can you see me?
I can also
Yes.
see you, Bob.
Okay,
Yes,
very
Bhante.
good. Very good, thank you.
We can see you, Bhante.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So this is the third night of the series of lectures on the 4 foundations of mindfulness sutta. Tonight, I'd like to continue with mindfulness of breathing. We'll finish up the section on mindfulness of breathing tonight. But before we get into that, let's do a little quick review of what we went over last week. So last week, we went over what are the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So the 4 foundations are mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of the Dhammas. So as I mentioned last week, we'll get into the other 3 as we go along. So I won't really go into what they are right now. But right now, we're covering mindfulness of the body, which the first of those is mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of the breath. And last week, we went over setting up our meditation practice, making time for it, making it into something special, making time for it. So we talked about setting up our practice, what we have to do to have a nice meditation session, not to rush, make it something important, making time for it, all those wonderful things. Then we discussed the very basics of mindfulness of breathing, the one that we're very familiar with, being mindful of the in-breath, being mindful of the out-breath, and how, as I always bring up when I teach mindfulness of breathing, we just let the breath happen naturally. We don't exaggerate the breath in any kind of way. We don't manipulate the breath in any way. We're just aware of the breath. When the breath is going in, we're aware that the breath is going in. And when the breath goes out, we're aware that the breath is going out. And these are the instructions the Buddha gives us. He is putting our mindfulness in front of us, staying focused on the breath, not letting the mind get distracted, just being aware that there is breath going on, going in, going out. And occasionally, the breath is longer. That is a long breath enters the body. The long breath exits the body. So it's just being aware of breathing. We sit in some place which is very congenial for meditation. It can be inside the park, it can be in the forest, on the trails, it can be at a meditation center, or it can be in your home, in your bedroom, whatever. But you want a place that is not a lot of distractions. It has to be a quiet place, particularly if you want to practice for a long extended period of time. It has to be a place that feels comfortable for you, that you won't be distracted, that you won't be disturbed. which is a nice place where you can really get into your practice. Just let the mind calm itself, let the body rest, and do your practice. So those are some of the things that we went over last week. So this week, the Buddha continues giving instructions on mindfulness and breathing. So he says, he trains thus: I shall breathe in experiencing the whole body. He trains thus: I shall breathe out, experiencing the whole body. He trains thus: I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. He trains thus: I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily formation. So these instructions are a little different from what he went over previously. He adds the term trains. You have to train yourself. The meditator has to train themselves to experiencing the whole body, going in and going out. He shall train himself, tranquilizing the bodily formation. He trains thus: he shall breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily formation. So these instructions are a little bit more intense. It's not like the other one where you're just doing it. This is something you have to train. So it's something that will eventually come from by doing our practice for a period of time. It might not always come out easy. Some people can sit and have wonderful meditation experience right off the bat. But most of us, we have to make our practice continual. We have to sit ourselves every single day and do it, to really focus the mind, to get the mind to stay on the breath. So we have to train ourselves, and we have to be more diligent with our practice. So this is what he's asking with these short instructions. So what does he mean by the whole body? So this can sometimes be a little bit of a controversial topic. A lot of different meditation teachers teach various different things about what this means. I personally don't particularly care either way, but I like to go in a little bit on what does it mean. So I put the two bodies. So in our meditation practice, well, in life, we have two bodies. We have a physical body, the one that we have, hopefully 2 legs, 2 arms, nose, whatever, our body, our physical body. But also there's the breath body. It is the breath that comes in, it's the breath that comes out. So these two kinds of bodies interact with each other. The oxygen that we breathe in, it keeps the body alive. We are dependent on this breath. We cannot survive without having air. We cannot survive without breathing. So this body is dependent on this breath. But also, as I've mentioned previously, breath affects the body. So when we're breathing very heavily, the lungs start pumping more, the heart rate goes up, the body starts reacting. But as we train ourselves, as we continue our practice, and we sit for periods of time, just letting the breath happen, not being distracted by our thoughts, not getting overly anxious about what comes up, we develop our sense of equanimity. The breathing continues on. We breathe in and we breathe out. And when we first start, the breath might be very rapid and much more gross. But as we sit for longer periods of time, the breath begins to get more subtle. And when that happens, the body begins to relax. So as we train to relax the body, as we train to calm ourselves with the breath becomes much more relaxed. And the breath becomes relaxed and the body becomes more relaxed. And when the body becomes relaxed, the breath becomes more relaxed. and so on and so forth. So these things are dependent on each other. They interact with each other. So this is one way we can say about experiencing the whole breath, seeing this interaction between the physical body and the breath body. But it's also, yes?
Could you make the print larger, please?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Thank you.
Sure. Is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. You're welcome. So that's one way we can interpret experiencing the whole body, seeing this symbiotic relationship between breath and the breath body and the physical body and the physical body and the breath body, seeing how they are dependent on each other, seeing how they interact with each other. Also, just being aware of the breath, just the breath body, seeing it from the beginning when it first enters the body, as it goes into the nostrils, and then comes back out. One way this was taught to me was like a worm or a snake going down a hole. So you keep the mind focused on the nostrils, or however else you're practicing it, the mindfulness of breathing. Going in, going in, going in, coming out, coming out, coming out. So it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So that's one way, another way of interpreting, experiencing the whole body. So we have to train ourselves into experiencing that. Where with our mindfulness and clear comprehension, we keep the mind focused on the breath, not letting it get distracted, just watching the breath, not interfering with it, but staying focused on it. Being aware when the mind wanders away or starts daydreaming while you're experiencing the breath, you remind yourself, go back to the breath, focus on the minute details. It's going in, there's a slight pause. After the slight pause, it comes back out. And there's another slight pause after you breathe out. So you're experiencing every little detail about that breath. Not being haphazard about it, but being very interested in that breath. So that's experiencing the whole body. And whether it's the physical body or the breath body, our attitude is always the same. We don't interfere with it. We don't try to manipulate it in any kind of way. We're just watching, being mindful of it, and being equanimous about that breath. And as I've mentioned briefly, tranquilizing the bodily formation. As you breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. Okay, breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation, breathing out. So this is something that happens naturally. As we practice our mindfulness of breathing, we make it a habit. We sit daily, experiencing our breath, watching the breath, calming the mind, not letting ourselves be distracted, not getting worked up about what happens, not rushing, not having expectations of what we want, just being present, being aware of the breath. In, out, whatever. But as we sit for a period of time, the mind becomes calm, the body becomes calm. The mind and the body are both calm. The breath becomes very subtle, becomes very calming. It's as if we don't breathe at all. We can't force this to happen. We can't will for this to happen. It just happens on its own. Still breathing, you're still alive. Don't freak out. Just let it happen. Keep your mind focused on where your mind is supposed to be focused. Nostrils, chest, abdomen. Just keep your mind where it's supposed to be. And the breath will start to become more and more apparent again. So this is the tranquilizing of the bodily formation. The breath body becomes tranquilized, but also the physical body is tranquilized. It's calm. It's not disturbed. It's not being forced. It just happens all on its own. And this is a good sign. This is the sign that you're really concentrated. Your samadhi, your samatha, and your samadhi is good. Just stay calm, stay focused, just let it happen. And after a period of time, the breath will come back. That's all you gotta do. As I mentioned, you can't force it, can't will it. It does its own thing. This is an insight. No matter how much we want things to happen, how much we try to force things to happen, how much we desire it, it won't happen. We just gotta let the bodies, not the mind and the bodies, not and the breath, nature to do what it does. So this is how we learn to be patient, we learn to be calm, and to get out of all of this as way. So those are the last of the instructions on mindfulness of breathing. So then the Buddha gives a simile. Just as a skilled lathe operator or his apprentice, when making a long turn, understands, I make a long turn. Or making a short turn, understands, I make a short turn. So too, breathing in long, a bhikkhu understands, I breathing long, and so on and so forth. The instructions for mindfulness of breathing. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. So this is what we need to be like. We need to be like this lathe operator or his apprentice. They're focused on their work. Their mind is sharp, it's keen, it's ardent, it's mindful, it has clear comprehension. They're staying focused on their work. Whatever it is that's going on with their work, or whatever's going on with our breath, we're watching, being aware, being focused, being present with it. We're not forcing anything. We're not manipulating anything. Just as if they were doing their work. If they try to do something that is not part of their job description, whatever they're trying to build or construct or shape, they won't get their desired results. But just like them, if we just stay focused, stay alert, become more equanimous, passive, just experiencing what we need to, experiencing the breath, stepping out of trying to control or manipulate, having desire, just being on guard, focused, alert, and so on. Then we'll get the results that we want, that comes along with the practice. We don't try to step out, try to do something that won't be beneficial for the practice, but just do the practice, follow the instructions that the Buddha gives for us, watching the breath, experiencing it, staying focused on it, and everything else will fall into place. So then the Buddha goes on giving instructions on insight. So using the breath to gain insight. In this way, he abides contemplating the body as a body internally. He abides contemplating the body as a body externally. Or he abides contemplating the body as a body both internally and externally. Or else he abides contemplating in the body its nature of arising. Or he abides contemplating in the body its nature of vanishing. Or he abides contemplating in the body its nature of both arising and vanishing. Or else mindfulness, there is a body, is simply established in him, to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and mindfulness. So, how do we practice contemplating the body as a body internally? It is this body, our body. It is a body that is, it's a living organism. It is not ours. It's not me. It's not myself. If it was ours, if we did have full control over this body, we'd be able to hold our breath. We'd be able to keep the breath in and nothing would happen because it's our body. It's, I want this body not to breathe anymore. Hold my breath in, and I'll be able to keep it held for long periods of time. But we can't do that. We have to breathe out. We breathe in and we breathe out. If we held the breath in, no matter how much we want to hold that breath in, we eventually fall over and pass out. Because this body needs something from the external. It needs air, needs oxygen. So no matter how much we make that strong determination not to breathe out, we have to do that. So this body that we cling and hold on to, that's ours, that we can do anything we want with it, that we can paint it up, get tattoos, get haircuts, take nice baths with nice products, put on perfumes, put on colognes, dress it up in nice clothing. It's not really ours. It's just a body. So, but it requires things from the outside. It needs to survive on food, it needs to survive on oxygen, it needs water. So this idea that we have that it's ours, that it's something that we have full control over, that it's something that's needs all so much, is not really ours. So it's, as we're sitting and practicing our mindfulness of breathing, we learn to see that question. We take that time to question, really, is it really ours? Is it really me? Is it really mine? What is that? You know, just by experiencing the breath, experiencing that there's more to this body than what we think. All the labels, all the conventions, all the attitudes that we have about our bodies. There's more to it than that. We just see that this is just a system that is dependent on many moving parts, like the breath coming in and coming out. You can visualize it almost like a factory with all its machineries and all of its gears and everything. It's like a machine. It's a machine that's has so much moving parts that it's dependent on so many other little things. So our ideas of our holdups, our desires, our wants, whatever, they don't seem so important anymore. We're moving away from unwholesome attitudes and unwholesome perceptions and moving more closer to insightful, more dhammic attitudes. So this is examining it internally. So whatever we learn about this body, our bodies, we apply it to the external as well, other people's bodies. So what's true for this body is also true about other people's bodies. So by gaining insight about our bodies, about our bad attitudes, about our unwholesome perceptions and delusions about this body, we also have delusions about other people's bodies. We see somebody, we don't like them, they're a jerk, they're getting in our way, you know, we don't like the way they look or whatever. What is it? It's the same thing as us. It's just another physical body that needs oxygen, that it needs air, that it needs food, it needs water. So what's the big deal? Why get so upset about them? Why ruin ourselves with our unwholesome thoughts and our unwholesome attitudes on just a physical being that is dependent on oxygen to survive? It's just another physical being, you know? So by practicing with the internal, by practicing with ourselves, we improve ourselves, but also by doing the external, we're improving our attitude, improving our mind about the external, other people's bodies. And then we can do it both internally and externally. So we continue working on ourselves and working on others as well. And as we're sitting, practicing meditation, we see that this body arises and vanishes. Breath comes in, it goes out. A new breath comes in, a new breath goes out. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end of the breath going in, and the same for going out. Chest rises, falls. Abdomen rises, it falls. This thing is constantly moving and changing. It arises, it vanishes. Just like I said, with holding the breath in, it doesn't work. It has to go through its cycles. The breath has to go through its cycles. The physical body has to go through its cycles. If it doesn't, it will perish. It will die. It cannot survive without it going through its cycles. It is dependent on those things. That is its nature. It has nature. The breath has its nature of arising. It has its nature of vanishing. The physical body has its nature of arising. The physical body has its nature of vanishing. So we learn all these things. We experience all these things. We see all these things. They might not be physical images. They might not be sounds. But just by being focused on the breath, by letting go of all the other distractions, by just staying with the breath, focusing on the breath, we see it happening. It's experiential. Just by being aware of the breath, by letting everything else go and just watching the breath, seeing the cycle, seeing these cycles, by just staying with the breath. Or else mindfulness that there is a body is established. That this is the body. This is what it is. It is just the physical body doing what the physical body does. Physical body needs to breathe, needs to survive, needs nutriments. It needs food, it needs water, it needs air. There's just this body. Not an I, it's not a me, it's not a myself. It's not Mangala, it's just the body. So I wrote the note, whether we are examining our body or the body of others, the nature is all the same. For our experience with practicing with our body, we grow to understand the nature of all bodies. So yeah, it's just bodies. Of course, and we use this body, we take care of this body, we do everything that we need to do to keep this body going, to grow, to develop understanding, to develop wisdom, to perfect ourselves. It's an instrument that needs to survive so that we can improve ourselves. So we don't let the body just die or become anything, don't become sadistic or just whatever about it. We need the body. We need to take care of our bodies. We need to be healthy. We need to exercise. We need to eat right. We need to associate with good people, because for us to continue to grow in wisdom, the body needs to be functioning properly. It needs to be taken care of. So that ends the section on mindfulness of breathing. So the next section is different. It still belongs to mindfulness of the body. So remember, there's many different sections on mindfulness of the body. So the breath is the first one. So now we're moving on to another one, which is postures. Again, bhikkhus, when walking, a bhikkhu understands, I am walking. When standing, he understands, I am standing. When sitting, he understands, I am sitting. When lying down, he understands, I am lying down. Or he understands accordingly, however this body is disposed. So, by being aware of our postures is another way that we can improve our mindfulness. We spend a lot of time sitting, we spend a lot of time walking. We lie down when we need to lie down. Just because we're doing these things doesn't mean we can't be mindful of them. So the Buddha gives 4 postures in this one. He begins with walking. So walking meditation is a wonderful practice. It's good to practice mindfulness of walking. Say, if you have the space for it, you should do it before your meditation practice. It helps energize, even particularly when you first get up in the morning, do a little bit of mindfulness of walking because it helps energize the body. It helps get the engine going before you sit. But if you can't do it, just try the best you can. But mindfulness of walking is a wonderful practice. And all you do is just be aware of your movements, be aware of your feet. We spend a lot of time, particularly if you're working, so you work at a hospital or work in a department store or something like that, you're going to spend a lot of time running around. Or if you work in an office building, you might be walking around the office building a lot. So you're at work and you're very busy, the mind is all over the place. It's driving you crazy, you're getting all frustrated. So you can be aware of your feet. Bring your awareness, maybe stop for a second, take in a breath, focus the mind, then start walking again. The right foot goes up, goes forward, goes down. Right foot goes up, goes forward, goes down. Right again, left again. Right, left, right, left, right, left. So this is how we can practice mindfulness of walking. In a busy situation, if you're in a retreat situation or walking meditation is part of your daily practice at home, you have the space, you can pick an area, 20 paces long, 10 paces long, whichever works for you. Start at one end, take a few deep inhales, exhales, relaxing the mind, relaxing the body. Beginning with your right foot, lift it up slowly. Feel the heel coming off the floor, swinging it forward. Heel goes on the floor, followed by the arch of the foot and then your toes. Then automatically, the left foot does the same thing. And you're going with all the different, focusing with your mindfulness and clear comprehension, focusing on all the movements of the foot, keeping the mind aware of the foot pad, going up onto the tiptoes, going forward, heel, arch, toes. And you go the whole distance like that, experiencing the right foot and the left foot, focusing on it. So we're not focusing on the breath at this moment, but we're focusing on the feet, the movement, the experience of walking. So when you're in a busy situation and you're at work, you can do the same thing. Might not be as detailed, but you're not letting the mind wander, running around, going crazy. You're being aware of walking, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. When you're at home or at a retreat center and you're doing mindfulness of walking, you can take your time, really pay attention to every little detail of the experience of walking. Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, going down a walking path, and really not letting the mind wander, not letting it get distracted. So you're beginning one end, go down the other end, be aware that you're stopping, turning, and go back to where you began, turning, go down to the other end. So this is a wonderful practice. It's very soothing. It very helps you focus, it really helps sitting. You can do it a period of sitting, then do a period of walking, then you do a period of sitting again. So it helps break up the retreat experience. And you can have wonderful insights by practicing mindfulness of walking. So that is mindfulness of walking. Then the Buddha says mindfulness of standing. So say you've been sitting for meditation and you want to do some walking meditation, or you just want to get up and stand. So instead of just, you had a nice calming meditation experience, you had some wonderful insights, you're feeling good, you don't just want to get up. You want to take your time. Slowly, mindfully open up your eyes, move your hands, put them on each side of you on the floor, push yourself up, feel the legs unlock, or you can lift up the knees and get up. Don't want to do it rushed. You don't want to just lose the calmness and concentration that you've gained. You experience every little movement that goes into getting up and standing. So you push up, the feet come out from underneath you, push yourself up, get up onto the feet, and then you're in the standing posture. This is a wonderful way of keeping your mind concentrated and focused. If you just say, whatever, I'm getting up, then you lose a lot of that calm. You lose that concentration. You have to maybe work a little harder to get it back. But when you're calm, collected, mindful of every little thing, taking your time, you help maintain that decorum, that state of mind. Say that you've been sitting for a period of time and you might have pain in the knees or your foot might be asleep. So when you go to get up into that standing posture, you lean back, you push your leg out. Next thing you know, that pain you might have had or the foot might be asleep gradually phases out. The tingling sensation comes back to your toes. So this is another way of experiencing that impermanence of change. When one thing changed, other things change. So you just sit there and experience that with your eyes closed, experiencing all the different little sensations that are going on throughout the leg. So get up, getting into the standing posture, and you just stand there. You feel the weight of the body on the feet. You feel the hardness of the floor. You feel heat of the foot pressed up against the floor, or you may feel coolness going into the warm, and you just stand there and you feel the straightness of the spine and all the weight going down to the feet. Don't need to do anything, don't need to exaggerate anything, you don't need to manipulate anything. You're just experiencing standing. This is standing. This is what it's like to stand. So, but standing meditation can be very difficult when you're just beginning, particularly if you're going to do it for long periods of time. I've seen a monk who supposedly stands for like 3 hours straight. I don't recommend doing that. Just do as I explained it. Experience and getting up and just standing for a few minutes, and then you can go do your walking meditation by being mindful of right foot, left foot. Go into your walking area. So that's standing meditation. Then there's sitting. We're all very familiar with sitting in meditation. As I mentioned when I gave my instructions for meditation, take your time getting into your posture. Don't feel like you have to rush. As I mentioned last week, give yourself time to wash up, brush your teeth, drink some water, throw some water on your face, whatever. And then mindfully walk to your sitting spot. And then you can stand there for a few seconds. Just see the place that you want to sit. Go to it mindfully, walk to it mindfully. Then just stand there for a few seconds, like I'm here. And then get down into your meditation posture. Just adjusting the limbs, getting yourself comfortable, and then sit. Feel the body in the sitting posture. You can mindfully scan the body from the top of the head down to the toes, feeling the bending of the knees, the hands on the lap, the heart beating in the chest, the buttocks against the cushion. Breathing in, breathing out, rising, falling of the chest and the abdomen. Just become aware of what it's like to just sit. After sitting for some time, the body might start getting very hot, start sweating, the legs might start hurting. This is all the experience of what it's like to sit, sitting. We overly react to it. We just become aware of all these different changes, all these different experiences going on in the body as we're sitting. And the same thing if you're sitting in a chair or on the couch or on a bed, whatever, it's still sitting. If you're sitting in a chair or on a couch and your feet are against the floor, you can feel the feet against the floor, hands on the lap, the straightness of the spine. Say that if you've been sitting for a while and you start slouching over, be aware that you're slouching over and just slowly straighten out the spine, feeling the vertebrae straightening out. Maybe experience when you were slouching over, the breathing might have been more ragged, but when you straighten out, the chest cavity opens up, getting all that fresh oxygen in, and breathing much more easier. You might not feel as drowsy or sleepy. Just how we can practice mindfulness of sitting. And when our day is done, we go to lie down. We do it mindfully. We go from the bathroom, brushing our teeth, washing our faces, mindfully walk to the bed and stand at the bed for a few seconds. Pull the sheets down. Don't just rip them down. Just slowly pull the sheet down. Turn around, turning. Sit down on the bed, at the edge of the bed. Feel the mattress against the buttocks, hands against the cushion. We swing the body over. Feet go up, turning on our buttocks. Get the legs up onto the bed. Get under the covers, pull up the covers, whatever. We're just lying on the bed, whatever. Just feeling the weight of the body on the mattress, head against the pillow. And just sit there. Being mindful of the breathing, feeling the body against the cushion, feeling the body against the mattress. We can practice some metta meditation while we're laying in bed. We're going to focus on the breathing, or both. And then we just go to bed mindfully. So lying down is just lying down. The body needs to take rest. It needs to lie down because that's just the nature of the body. The body needs to rest. You might not want to go to bed. You might want to stay up all night watching TV, doing all kinds of things. Can't do that. Eventually the body needs to lie down. It needs to rest. Because there's no I, no me, no myself. It's just the body, and the body is following its own nature. But we can take all these different things, walking, standing, sitting, lying down, and see how we can expand on them, how we can become more mindful of them. I'm just giving little hints about different things that I've done and I've read about throughout the years, but it's really up to you to practice them. Don't make them into some big performance. Just let them do what they need. Just do it. The Buddha doesn't really give any instructions on how to practice any of these things. He just says be mindful of them. So there'll be all kinds of different things that you can do, but make them very simple. When walking, don't make it mechanical. Don't make it overly exaggerated. Just walk. Let it be natural. With our mindfulness practice, we just want to experience, not to control, not to manipulate, not to exaggerate. Just let the things happen. Let the body be the body. Let walking just be walking. Let standing be standing. Let sitting be sitting. Let lying down be lying down. Don't try to manipulate it. Don't try to change any of these things. Just let it happen and be aware of what's happening. What goes into sitting? What goes into walking? What goes into standing? What goes into lying down? That's what we want to become mindful of. That's what we want to experience. And that's what we want to gain information about, gain understanding about. And as we do each of these things, there is the physical component of it, but it's also the mental component that goes into it. It's that awareness of, I'm getting up, I'm going to stand. There's that impulse that I'm walking, and that awareness of walking. It's that there's a chair, I'm going to go sit. So there's the walking, there's that mental impulse of sitting, and then that awareness of sitting. So it's becoming aware of that mental impulse, that awareness of the mind that's driving the body to go lie down or go to sit down, or walking and awareness of walking. So these are just little tips that I hope everyone has gained some kind of knowledge from, some kind of gleaned something from it. So yeah, that's all I have to say right now about these things. And we'll continue on with the sutta next week as well. So now it's time for the question and answer period. So if anyone has any questions, you can raise your little hand. You can write your message in the box. So yeah, let's get into that. Stop sharing. Okay. So we got some messages in the box. Okay, we got some hands too. So let's start with the chat box. So the first question is, how do you define the breath body or connection to source? So the breath body, as I mentioned when I gave the lecture, it's interpreted as the breath itself from beginning, middle to end. So we're breathing in, there's a beginning for when it touches the nostril. So when it's in the nose and then it's going down, stops, comes back out again. So that's one interpretation of breath body. It's just the whole length of the breath. Also becoming aware of the interconnectedness of the physical body and the breath body, that this body is dependent on the breath to survive. The body can't function without the breath. And also, if we didn't have physical body, there wouldn't be a breath either. So it's this co-relationship of breathing. So that's how I interpret breath body. There's a physical component to the breath. There's a physical and breath body. So there's two kinds of bodies. So there's another question. Thank you, Bante. Is it possible to elaborate a little more about the third instruction, particularly the two interpretations to keep below? Can you just remind me what was the third instruction? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me anymore. I don't. The phrase that occurs often in the sutta is with mindfulness and clear comprehension. What is the difference between mindfulness and clear comprehension? So mindfulness is being focused on something. It's being aware. It's remembering what we're doing. It's focused on something. Say your mindfulness of the breath. You're focusing on the breath. And clear understanding or clear comprehension is the awareness that happens when the mind wanders away and it brings it back. It has the knowing factor. Mindfulness is just focused on something, it's aware of something, but it doesn't have like understanding of it. It doesn't have I kind of see clear comprehension as the eyes. We have a skull, but we need eyes to see. So mindfulness is the skull. It is what it is. But clear comprehension is like the eyes. It's the knowing factor of mindfulness. Thank you very much for your Vinaya Loke Bija Domanasam, putting away toughness and grief for the world, withdrawing the mind from the day-to-day worries. Okay. So thank you, Bhante, very much for the I am confused about the meaning of this definition. Vinaya Loke Bija Domanasam, putting away covetousness and grief for the world, withdrawing the mind from the day-to-day worries and maintaining a sense of equanimity. Bhikkhu Analio, in his book Satipatthana, translates this sentence differently. He translated it as free from desires and discontent in regard to the world. Am I missing something or missing up the meanings? So something to keep in mind about Satipatthana, the Satipatthana Sutta, is that it's been translated by every monk. Any monk who writes books, they've written a commentary or a translation about Satipatthana. So if you're a scholar monk who studies Pali, you've probably written some dissertation, some essay, some book on Satipatthana. Every monk, that's what you do when you become a scholar monk, when you become a writing monk. So, and lots of monks have their own particular translations on Vinaya Loke Bija Domanasang. So when you translate Vinaya Loke Bija Domanasang, you like to put your own words, something that's your translation, by their own personal preference or their own how they like to perceive Vinaya Loke Bija Domanasang. So Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi has putting away covetousness and grief for the world. Venerable Analio likes free from desires and discontent in regards to the world. Both of them, to me, are fine. You can translate it any way you want, but what matters is our attitude. To be able to practice the 4 foundations of mindfulness, we need to learn to let go. We need to learn to put things behind us and focus, put our mindfulness in the front of us. We can't be held back by our desires, our wants, our griefs, our sadnesses from the past. We need to learn to let go of all the little stories we like to tell ourselves, all of our little holdups, all those things. We want to go forward. To be able to go forward, you need to put things aside. You need to put them away, lock them up in a cabinet, and do what you need to do. So whether it's Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, whether it's Venerable Analio's translation, it's all the same thing. It's just personal preferences on translating. But it's that attitude is what's really important. Okay, I hope I answered your question, Rooney. So I think in summarizing, it's being aware that there's a breath, as it arises, it vanishes, there's a beginning, middle, and end. Our body is dependent on the breath is dependent on a body for it to materialize. And then we have to train ourselves to be aware of these things. Okay, then we had some hands. Let's see some hands. Yupeng, do you have a question?
Hi, Bhante. Yes, I do. So I'm wondering if there's anything more to be said about the simile of the lathe operator. I've read the sutta a few times, and from what I understand the lathe machine to be, it involves control, right? As an operator, you don't just run the machine and let the machine turn out what it wishes to turn out. So I'm just wondering if there's something to be learned from that choice of simile, or maybe I don't understand what a lathe machine is. So just thought I'd ask.
I don't think there's anything really more to say about it. It's really just about, I don't know, maybe Bhikkhu or Bhikkhuni so-and-so might have a more elaborate interpretation of it, but from my personal experience and by my own understanding, I just interpret it of just being focused on what you're doing. Other ancient monastics, they would give an example of, when you're sawing wood, you're being focused on the teeth touching the wood and you're focusing on it, So that's another interpretation. Or that of a gatekeeper, you're being focused on what's coming in and what's going out, like you're staying focused on who's coming in and who's going out, all those kinds of things. So so it's just really just being focused on what you're doing, not doing, when you're a lathe operator, you're doing what a lathe operator has to do to get their best product. And as meditators, as yogis, we have to do what we need to do to get the most of our mindfulness of breathing. That's by being focused on the breath and being aware of the breath happening. So I could be wrong. I'm not enlightened yet, but so far so good, I guess. But yeah, so, but yeah, so, but continue doing your own practice, continue your own research, your own studies, your own readings, and you might maybe find something else that's might work for you and better work for you. So I'm just doing out what I know.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome. Shayla?
Thank you. Good evening, Bhante, and thank you so much. This is such a joy. My question is, I'm trying to develop a strategy to increase my practice so that I add a second meditation sit later in the day. I'm pretty good with morning, although I'm still even experimenting with the time. I'm on the West Coast, so I wake up about 4 to make sure that I have enough time to get myself together as well as meditate for anywhere between 20 minutes and 60 minutes. And I'd like to incorporate a second sit in the evening, try to go to bed 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. Is there some guidance around, well, I don't want to meditate and then go straight to sleep an hour before, maybe 2 hours? Should I maybe just do walking? Any thoughts on a strategy to move in that direction? I really appreciate your guidance on that. Thank you so much.
It's really just, you have to kind of toy around with it, practice with all different kinds of situations and just what works for you, what makes you feel invigorated, or what makes you feel calmer. It's something that you just have to, you can do walking meditation, or you can have a period of making a nice cup of tea and just sitting at the table with a nice cup of tea, nice chamomile or something like that, something that's very soothing and relaxing. Read some suttas, take a period of reading, set, how many pages, you want to read, or maybe just read a paragraph, just something that helps you feel inspired, something that makes you feel invigorated or calm, just, you just really just kind of have to play around with it and do what you need to do. I'm not going to tell you to do this, because then you won't do it, and I don't want to torture you, you know, but it's, you have to adjust things that help you in your practice. So I'm not going to be the whip holder. I want you to meditate and I want you to practice. That's all I care about. So yeah, just try different things that make you feel good, that get you to do the practice. And I think you'll be fine. I know you'll be fine. Okay, another question is in the box. Does body actually mean other people's body? Yes. Body externally means other people's bodies. We learn to gain insight into this body, our own physical body, and the nature of this body, this internal body, is the same as the external bodies. Since Sila is the foundation of Satipatthana Sutra, how do you keep a stainless Sila, especially speech and craving and greed? That's a real tough one. It just takes, like everything else, it just takes practice and experiencing the drawbacks of unwholesomeness. You see the stress level rising, you see the regrets, you see the bad outcomes of not living a virtuous life. You see how it affects when you try to sit to meditate. All of that stuff kind of comes up the dirt, the filth comes to the top of the glass. It just takes vigilance to not to do it again. You can only put your hands on a hot plate so many times and get burned by it. And so you say, I'm not going to do that anymore. You make your journey as a yogi your priority, and you're willing to do anything that you need to do to reach your goal. Okay, this is going to be the last question. Bhante, could this be a valid interpretation? Because of saying no strict separation between internal and external, as well as not strict separation between arising and dissolving, we can abide independent and not cling to anything in the world. The implication is that we see things as dualistic, way like internally as opposed to externally arising, as opposed to dissolving. We have a tendency to cling to one of the two sides. Yeah, it is what it is, whether we cling to it or not cling to anything, whether we put up dualities, it's just, that's like an insight that we can gain. That is, there's just activities, things rising, falling. It's just all activity, no matter what philosophical understanding or any kind of language, or it's just stuff. Things are happening. Things are happening around us. Things are happening inside of us. It's just constant. It's no matter how much we cling, no matter how much we hold on to it, no matter how much we want things to be the way we want them, put our ideas on them, whatever, it doesn't change. Just change. It's can't do anything about it. It happens. Things are happening, whether we like it or not. I hope that answers that question. That was a big question and a very smart question. I'm not always very good with smart questions. Many things. Well, thank you everybody for your wonderful comments. So I think I'm going to end for the night. So the recordings that I'm doing right now, hopefully they'll be getting online at some point soon, up on the baus.org website or the YouTube channel. Yeah, hopefully they'll get posted. Unfortunately, I don't have those capabilities. I have to be reliant on others to do it. So it's whenever they have time to do it. They're very busy. I'm not the tech guy. So I'll hopefully be able to send them the recordings tomorrow, and they'll be able to get them up this week. So thank you everybody for your patience. May any beings who are observing us tonight, may they rejoice in our discussions and our understanding of Dhamma, our desire to understand Dhamma, so that they are able to achieve the sweet bliss, which is Nibbana. May we all attain the sweet bliss, which is Nibbana. So thank you everybody for joining.
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhante Mangala.
Sadhu. Thank you, Geeta.
Thank you,
Sadhu,
Bhante.
yeah.
Bhante Mangala.
Thank you, Bhante.
I'll see you all
Everyone.
next Sunday.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank
Please
you.
take care of yourselves, take care of each other, continue on with your practice, continue on with your studies, and may we all attain Nibbana sooner rather than later. So I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Good night,
Well,
Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Good night, everybody.
Great week.
Good
Have a
night.
good week. Good
Thanks
night.
all.